I speak to you in the name of the living God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. I was looking for inspiration this Refugee Week, and I found it in the two short video clips that feature in our virtual service this week. In the animated cartoon at the start, the character who's initially labelled as refugee sees that label fall off as that person recovers the use of their legs, and then their hands, and then their eyes, and finally their smile, the recovery of their dignity as fellow human beings. The other video clip, which follows this sermon, is based on the principle that it takes 4 minutes to fall in love. Amnesty International did a simple experiment to place two human beings in the same space for 4 minutes, to make eye contact, and then to observe what happens. Have a look and see for yourself, and see if it moves you. If we think it's been difficult for us living through lockdown, think how hard it must be to go on living here in this country as a refused asylum seeker, to retain one's dignity as a human being, an ability to cope after all that you've been through, to simply survive from day to day. We know from the message of the Incarnation, God becoming like us, identifying with us, God valuing what it is to be human so much that God becomes human, that the offer of refuge and safety to the one who is the foreigner and the stranger, that this lies at the heart of the gospel message and Jesus' proclamation of the kingdom. It's there in the Gospels. It's a message that's reiterated throughout the Bible. In the reading from Deuteronomy, Charlotte reminded us that the people of Israel are to show hospitality and mercy to the stranger and the foreigner. It's the same word, because they were once strangers and foreigners in the land of Egypt. In our epistle, Peter says, once we were not a people, but now we are God's people, and speaks of the dignity afforded to us, that we are God's children now. So I chose those three readings today. They're from a wider selection of readings in a sustained theological reflection by Indrajit Bagal. It was commissioned for the Leeds Church Institute, and Indrajit was the person who launched the City of Sanctuary initiative in 2005. And in this document, he reflects on the City of Leeds that we're part of as a city of sanctuary and what that means. Indrajit reminds us that the Levitical command is not only to love your neighbour as yourself. In Leviticus chapter 19, verse 34, we read, we are to love the stranger as yourself. So here's the passage from Leviticus in full. When a stranger, a foreigner, resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the stranger. The foreigner who resides among you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the stranger as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. In my all-age address, I encouraged you to imagine that Jesus himself was standing on your doorstep, and to imagine what you would do to honour this special guest in your midst. Jesus said, anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. Anyone who welcomes you into their home is actually welcoming Jesus. It's a humbling thought. Because of lockdown, we can't show hospitality to strangers in the way that we normally would be able to. In a world where we can't welcome people into our homes, how can we indicate that we would like to if we could? At this time, we have an opportunity to show to some of the 183 asylum seekers who are currently residing at the Mercure Hotel that God cares about them, and that we do too. The answer to the question posed by our Gospel reading today is that if we were the host rather than the guest, would we demonstrate the same quality of welcome if the guest were Jesus himself? Just to remind you of the prayer that we said as we went into lockdown. May we who are merely inconvenienced at this time remember those whose lives are at stake. May we have to cancel our trips remember those who have no safe place to go. May we who settle in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. Let us choose love. Let us find ways to be the loving embrace of God to our neighbour. Amen.